If you've ever felt your pulse spike over something tiny, like a wrong bill or a rude email, then you already know exactly how my week started. The envelope on my doorstep looked harmless, white, thin, stamped with the HOA logo. I tore it open while juggling grocery bags, expecting a reminder about pool hours or some boring maintenance notice. Instead, the number $80 stared back at me in oversized print. Violation, unauthorized markings on driveway. For a second, my brain didn't even connect dots. Unauthorized, what? I reread it twice, then a third time. The paper shook like it had a faint heartbeat of its own. My daughter had drawn 3 little chalk butterflies on our driveway. Washable chalk. The kind that disappears in the first drizzle. Pink, blue, yellow, nothing but color and imagination. And someone in our own neighborhood had classified it as defacement. I walked outside in disbelief. It wasn't just me. Pink violation slips were flapping on almost every mailbox like surrender flags. Kids stood silently by their scooters, staring at their parents as if waiting to be punished for something they didn't understand. One mother held her slip up like a toxic letter. "It's from Karen," she whispered, as though speaking her name too loudly might summon her. Everyone knew who Karen was, the HOA president who wore stiff blazers to casual barbecues and carried her clipboard like an extension of her soul. I tried the diplomatic approach first. I wrote a short, polite email to the board, attaching a picture of my daughter rinsing the butterflies away with a garden hose. I cited the county guideline about temporary markings. Clear evidence. Zero attitude. Silence. At the next HOA meeting, Karen made a show of adjusting the microphone before speaking as if she were on national TV instead of in a stuffy community room that smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. "Rules exist for a reason," she declared. "Anything that alters the visual uniformity of our neighborhood lowers property values." A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Someone muttered under their breath. But no one dared challenge her. When the meeting ended, I knocked on doors. "Appeal it," I urged. "We can't let this slide. It's chalk, not vandalism." Most people shook their heads. One man whispered, "Karen writes down names of anyone who argues." A literal blacklist over chalk. That night, my daughter asked with big eyes, "Mom, am I in trouble for drawing outside?" Something in me snapped into place, a quiet, determined click. No child should feel guilt for drawing a butterfly. I brewed coffee at midnight and spread our CC and RS across the kitchen table like battlefield maps. I analyzed each paragraph. I highlighted definitions. I checked county codes. It turned out the HOA's claim didn't just stretch the rules, it invented new ones from thin air. If they wanted war, they picked the wrong opponent. Because I had something Karen didn't, common sense, legal backing, and a whole community of parents who'd finally had enough. And I had a plan. But I didn't realize just how fast that plan would turn our quiet street into the biggest HOA showdown our town had ever seen. While Karen probably expected us to quietly pay the fines and fade into compliance, she underestimated one thing. Moms fueled by irritation and iced coffee can out-strategize dictators. I started small. I called the county's non-emergency line, asking calmly, "Is washable chalk on personal driveways considered vandalism?" The woman on the phone paused, then laughed. "Ma'am, that's not vandalism. Kids draw. Rain handles the cleanup." I wrote down her exact words. Then came the real spark. I wanted the whole neighborhood to see that chalk wasn't a crime, it was joy. So I printed simple flyers and stuck them on door frames. Saturday, Community Chalk Day and Donation Drive. Public sidewalks, outside HOA jurisdiction. Bring chalk. Bring snacks. Bring joy. No protest language. Nothing confrontational. Just art and community. Saturday arrived like sunrise cracking an overcast sky. What started with 5 families turned into dozens. Kids sprawled across the sidewalk drawing dragons, galaxies, rockets, hopscotch lanes, and stick figure families with toothy smiles. Someone set up a bubble machine. A teen DJ plugged in a speaker. Laughter floated down the street like confetti. I ran the lemonade stand, $2 a cup, all proceeds to upgrade our neighborhood park benches. For the first time in weeks, it felt like the neighborhood could breathe again. Then a white SUV rolled up too slowly to be friendly. It stopped diagonally across a fire hydrant, hazard lights flashing an unnecessary warning. And out stepped Karen, sunglasses the size of satellites and a clipboard clutched like a weapon. She announced loudly to no one in particular, "This is unauthorized. This is illegal activity on public property. I am calling enforcement." I held up my printed county notes. The law says washable chalk is permitted on public sidewalks. She ignored me. She dialed someone loudly enough that the street could hear every word. "I need officers dispatched," she said. "We have vandalism in progress." The crowd went silent. Kids froze mid-drawing. I felt my stomach twist, but I kept smiling. This wasn't about winning an argument. This was about the truth being spoken aloud where everyone could hear it. Minutes later, 2 sheriff's deputies arrived. Calm. Relaxed. Hands resting casually on their belts. One of them knelt beside a chalk starburst and actually smiled. "My daughter draws these. Looks great." Karen pounced. "Ticket them. They're violating our HOA rules." The deputy stood, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Ma'am, HOA rules do not override county laws. Washable chalk is not vandalism." A few neighbors cheered under their breath. Phones recorded. Karen's face tightened like a shrinking balloon. She jabbed her finger toward me. "Then ticket the organizer. She didn't get a permit." Without missing a beat, the deputy pointed behind her. "Ma'am, you're illegally parked in front of a fire hydrant." Gasps. Laughter. A few snorts of disbelief. He wrote the ticket slowly, dramatically, then handed it to her. But she wasn't done, and the next thing she tried would backfire even harder. Karen's reaction to getting a ticket was the emotional equivalent of watching a kettle boil over. Loud, messy, and completely unnecessary. "Oh, this is absurd," she barked, waving the citation like a flag of injustice. "I am the HOA president." The deputy didn't blink. "And I am the guy writing tickets for hydrant violations." His partner walked around her SUV and tapped the windshield. "Also, your registration is expired." My jaw nearly dropped. 2 violations in less than 2 minutes. Poetic justice on wheels. Neighbors tried to hide their chuckles. Kids whispered, "Oh," like they were watching a cartoon villain get outsmarted. Karen snatched both tickets, stormed to her SUV, and slammed the door so hard the whole vehicle shuddered. She peeled off the curb, tires screeching like a furious banshee fleeing daylight. But for me, the day wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. The county had validated us. The law was on our side. And the event raised enough donations to jumpstart the park upgrade fund. That afternoon, after the chalk festival ended and the last rocket drawing faded into dusk, I sat at my kitchen table drafting a formal complaint. I attached photos of the chalk art, screenshots of the county code, the deputies' statements, copies of Karen's tickets, and a little bonus, a collage someone sent me of Karen's SUV parked illegally from 3 angles. I sent the entire packet to the HOA board, the county code office, and, just for good measure, uploaded the collage to the local Facebook group. Within minutes, notifications exploded. Neighbors commented non-stop. "Refund the fines. Let kids play. Karen has lost her mind." By the next morning, people were walking dogs slower than usual so they could discuss Hydrant Gate. A retired couple even made laminated magnets saying "Justice for Chalk" and stuck them on their golf cart. For the first time in years, the community was louder than Karen. But I knew her well enough to expect retaliation. The kind that comes wrapped in formal language and stamped with official ink. And sure enough, 2 days later, an email arrived from the HOA titled, "Emergency Board Meeting. Mandatory Attendance." I felt that old twist of anxiety. Karen had influence. She had friends on the board. She liked controlling rooms. But something about this meeting felt different. Because this time, it wasn't just me walking through those doors. It was an entire neighborhood, finally fed up. And none of us expected who would walk into that meeting behind us. The community center was packed. Not politely full, overflowing. People stood along the walls, shoulder to shoulder, whispering, sharing popcorn, recording videos before anything even happened. You could feel the air vibrating. Karen sat stiffly at the front table, wrapped in one of her signature scarves, chin high, the picture of forced dignity. Her clipboard rested beside her like a loyal guard dog. She tapped the microphone. "We will begin shortly. Please maintain order." No one listened. The room buzzed like a hive poked with a stick. Then the door opened, and in walked two people who immediately silenced the room. The same deputy from Chalk Day, and a county code inspector. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Karen's face twitched, though she tried to hide it under her scarf. The inspector stepped forward. "We received a complaint regarding the HOA issuing improper fines. After reviewing the CC and RS and county code, we found that the fines for chalk drawings on private driveways." Karen interrupted sharply. "They were defacement. Visual disruption." The inspector didn't even look at her. "Were not legally supported by your governing documents. Therefore, all chalk-related fines will be rescinded and refunded." A cheer rose so loudly the windows rattled. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, searching for a foothold in a conversation that no longer belonged to her. The deputy cleared his throat. "Additionally," he paused for dramatic effect, "we'd like to remind board members that calling law enforcement for lawful activity is considered misuse of emergency services." Neighbors laughed. Someone clapped. Another whispered, "She's finished." Karen banged her palm on the table. "This is a coordinated attack on my authority." "No," the inspector said calmly. "This is the county enforcing the rules that actually exist." A board member, someone who had always stayed neutral, leaned forward nervously. I motioned to remove the current president due to repeated overreach." You could have heard a pin drop before the explosion of voices. "I second. Absolutely. About time." Hands shot up. Votes were counted. Karen's title evaporated in less than 30 seconds. She sat frozen, eyes glistening with a mixture of disbelief and rage. The scarf she always wore seemed to shrink around her as if even the fabric was embarrassed. She remained on the board, technically, but stripped of any authority. A figurehead with no power. 1 week later, she resigned entirely to focus on personal matters. Translation: she couldn't stand being ignored. The board apologized for the chaos. Refund checks were issued. New policies were drafted with clearer language. And the neighborhood felt lighter, happier, less monitored. But we weren't done yet. Because something unexpected happened after Karen's fall, something that revealed just how much she'd been hiding. And the discovery we made next proved this whole chalk drama was only the tip of the iceberg. With Karen gone, the neighborhood seemed to exhale. Kids chalked freely again, their knees covered in dust like badges of honor. Parents sat on lawn chairs, waving to each other without that constant tension of wondering who might report them for existing. But then the stories started coming out. One neighbor confessed she'd once received a violation for wind chimes that exceeded harmonious audio limits. Another revealed that Karen had issued a $120 fine because their Halloween pumpkin decomposed asymmetrically. Someone else said Karen used to drive around taking photos of lawns at sunrise to catch dew patterns that indicated watering schedule violations. We all realized the chalk fines weren't a one-off moment of bad judgment. They were part of a long-running, self-appointed crusade to impose perfection on a neighborhood that never asked for it. Meanwhile, the park bench fund from Chalk Day had grown like wildfire. Donations poured in after the Facebook collage went viral. A local carpenter even offered to build custom benches at a discount. Kids painted small designs on the wooden slats, little flowers, tiny rockets, initials, symbols of the very creativity Karen tried so hard to police. I passed the fire hydrant one afternoon where she had been ticketed, and someone had placed a small red ribbon around it with a handwritten tag, dedicated to the day common sense one. People framed their refunded violation slips like novelty certificates. A joke, a memory, a reminder that ridiculous rules fall apart when people stand together. But the biggest change. The board rewrote the CC and RS with actual community input for the first time in years. We formed committees. We voted on things. We spoke openly. It felt like democracy instead of dictatorship. One evening, As my daughter drew a giant butterfly on the sidewalk, she looked up and asked, "Mom, do we have to erase it before someone gets mad again?" I smiled. "No, sweetheart. You draw as big as you want." The butterfly spread across the concrete like freedom itself. Later that week, the deputy who defended us drove by, window down. He slowed near my yard. "Neighborhood looks happy again," he said. "Feels like it," I replied. He nodded toward the park where kids were laughing. "Funny how chalk caused all this." "Chalk didn't cause it," I said. "Someone forgetting they were dealing with people, not property values, caused it." He chuckled. "Fair enough." As he drove off, the sunset hit the new benches just right. Warm gold on fresh wood, bright against the sky. A symbol of what happens when a community finally stands up together. Karen wanted silence. What she got instead was unity. And every time I pass that red hydrant, I smile at the memory. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just a kid with chalk. And a neighborhood brave enough to defend her butterfly.